Hello and welcome. This is episode 12 of the Six Star Business Podcast. I'm one of your two co-hosts, Pete Daly-Dixon, and I'm joined as ever by the lovely and just finished surfing, Evelyn Clark. Good day, Av. How are you?
Hi, Pete. Great. I'm great today, of course. How are you?
Yeah. So, late breaking news. You went surfing on a school day in the middle of the day. Oh my God, what's going on for you? Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone. That's right. It was a case of, if I don't literally just shut the computer, walk out, pick my stuff up and leave, then I'm just going to fill the next hour and a half in with work, which is very easy to do. But I had a reason to go. I made a commitment to meet a friend down there. So that made it more obviously important, and it forced me to turn up. So, and she even said to me when we got there that if I didn't do it, she probably wouldn't have turned up either. So it was really great.
There's something in that accountability.
Yeah, that's right. Doing it together. We even talked about setting a goal together of, our surfing skills and even beyond that, and just being in nature, whatever works for you, we're all different. And for me, standing up on the edge of Greenmount Beach overlooking the ocean in 180 degree vantage point and watching these long sets of waves roll in is pretty darn special. And as I said to my friend, I can stand here and watch that, but I just want to be in there because there's something quite magical about it. And it was a complete reset. So coming back into work, I felt completely re-energized in many ways. So it's a good thing.
It feels like a catch-22 in some ways, doesn't it? You think, well, it's almost like I don't have time to go surfing, and for surfing, add in whatever it is, rejuvenates you and regenerates you and kind of recharges you. But if you don't do that, you kind of get the law of diminishing returns, and you think, and the work that you are doing is subpar and takes you longer to do because you're tired and whatever. So well done. I hope that's the first of many times. Hey, and I've got a bit of news for you as well.
Ooh, what is it? What is it?
I got an email from Seth Godin yesterday.
No, aren't you lucky?
Yeah. Well, we agreed that we were going to invite him to the gala opening of the community, Six Star Business community.
Yeah.
Well, I emailed him and he emailed back graciously saying, rooting for you, all the best. Alas, I'm not going to be able to make it work for me. So so Seth won't be there. His loss. But I thought it was pretty cool.
It is.
No, it's funny. Someone, if you've been in business any amount of time, Seth's name should ring some bells for you. And not that I idolize him, but I certainly respect his thinking and his view of the world. And to have an email from him in my inbox, it feels good.
It's beautiful. That's pretty cool that he actually wrote back to you in a very timely manner. Like, it wasn't like you had to wait for a week.
The guy is a six-star. He's a six-star dude, and that epitomizes it. But just in that, I happened to mention the launch of the Six Star Business community. We're pretty excited about it, aren't we, Av?
Just a little bit. We're like little kids in candy stores, really, aren't we?
I think one of the most exciting things for me about it is the sheer quality of the people that have been attracted to us saying, can we help? How can we help you make this thing a reality? We've got a world-class copywriter in Rob Drummond. We've got a world-class user experience and web person in Ira and Emily. We've got the most amazing community manager in Gail Timms. We've got top world-class professional photographer in John Cassidy.
Yeah.
And hopefully, fingers crossed, after my conversation with Tracy Lamoury on Friday, we'll have a PR powerhouse in the team as well. And I'm just thinking, not how can we fail, but how massively will we succeed with a team like that. It's the kind of team which, any business owner would just think, but I would love to have a team like that, but there's no way I can afford them all. And there's just something in six star business that is capturing people's attention and holding their interest.
Well, speaking of that, that's why we're here on the podcast. Shall we introduce our guests, Pete?
Absolutely. So have at it, Av. Who have we got?
Me. Okay. We have two amazing people. And I say that, I know that I say that, almost every week, because I believe the people that come on this podcast are amazing. We have Greg Smith from Australia, and he has run and managed successfully a few different businesses, and he's a complete nut when it comes to building relationships and connecting with customers and people, and he loves a good chat, complete extrovert, lots of fun. Then we have Remeny Armitage from the UK, who has a purpose to humanize business, and she is a client advocacy expert.
Two people, as Av says, lovely, wonderful humans, experts at what they do. There's a lot of genius in this episode. We won't attempt to give you the highlights of the episode now, because we recorded it over a month and a half ago, and at that time our process was that we hadn't got to where we are now, but we both remember it as being a fantastic episode. So let's your headphones on and have a listen, and we'll see you on the other side.
We will. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Greg. Hi, Remeny.
G'day, Pete.
Hi.
How are you?
Welcome. The scales are a bit more evenly balanced today on this episode, number 10. We've got two Aussies and two Brits. So yeah, it's thanks for keeping the side up there, Remeny. It's good to have you. So I guess our listeners, can see you. They've heard your voices, but what would be really great, Greg and Remeny, is to give our listeners a chance to find out a little bit about who Greg and Remeny are both as people and as professionals. So who wants to go first? Who wants to introduce themselves? Remeny, go on.
Oh, go on then. Thanks for having me. I'm Remeny Armitage. I'm co-founder of Brilliant and Human. In a nutshell, I turn clients into advocates. So I work to improve client relationships and nurture relationships so that people have better clients, happier clients. And I'm compared to people as a marriage counselor for businesses, as I interview my clients, find out what's working, what's not, and how to improve the business off the back of what clients actually want, and listening to them. As a person, I'm a mother of two boys, I live in Buckinghamshire, and keep very busy working with children.
Fantastic.
How old are your boys?
They are 7 and 8.
Okay.
I've got them tied up in a cupboard downstairs,
All right, mine are too, don't worry.
Oh, good.
It's great to have you with us, Remeny. Yeah, looking forward to your voice and the conversation about 6-Star Business. Greg, who are you and how are you, sir?
I'm very well, thanks, Pete. Look, I think in summary, I cheekily don't mind referring to myself as a marketing genius, and an out-of-the-box marketing genius at that, and a master of client retention. And what really drives our business is a real belief in authentic connection, particularly in the business world. I would assert that the four of us, at least, and maybe our listeners, are exhausted in the digital space. It's difficult to keep up. It's a very noisy space, and it's getting noisier and noisier. And so we have a secret weapon. I'm the CEO of a company called Send Handwritten, and we help our clients cut through that digital noise with old school, handwritten, personalized, beautifully designed handwritten greeting cards that go out in beautifully designed wax sealed envelopes with our client's logo embossed into that envelope. And the whole point of the exercise is to cut through and Velcro eyeballs to whatever your business is.
Yeah, brilliant. And tell me, Greg, for the listeners here, a little bit about you personally, and maybe where you hail from.
So the fun part of this conversation and relationship with Aveline and Peter is that I met Peter first. He's in the UK. It turns out that Aveline lives one street away from me and is sitting like within 300 meters of me at home, as am I this afternoon. But so it took a damn Brit to introduce us, across the planet. So I'm a dad of two young adult children, both of who are travelers and are trapped at home at the moment because of what's going on at the planet. On the planet. So they're between them very productive at the moment, but bears with sore heads. And my wife is also here with us, of course, and she's an Australian leader in the aquatic therapy space. So we're a tight unit. We live northern New South Wales, just under the Queensland border.
Wonderful. Great to have you with us. Thanks for making the time. I can just hearing Greg and Remeny, what you both do there professionally. There's some connection. So hopefully you meeting on this podcast, there'll be value in that for you. And it's something that Av and I are growing to really appreciate, is the kind of serendipity of the random connections of our guests. Each guest books themselves on individually, and then we turn up and we see who the universe, if you like, has brought together. It always makes for really interesting conversations. The question that I like to ask to get the ball rolling, get the roller coaster moving, if you like, is just to find out what's really brought us together. We know that we're all here to record an episode of the 6 Star Business Podcast, but what I'd like to ask is, so Greg, let me ask you this first. When you first came across, heard the idea, the concept of the 6 Star business, I'm really interested to know what came to mind for you, what attracted you to it, and kind of, I guess, it inspired you enough about it to want to give up an hour of your busy schedule to chat here with us about it.
Yeah, great question, Pete. I think we're all capable of experiencing a 5-star experience. We can go into a whatever hotel or restaurant and experience what gets labelled as 5-star. But 6-star is something beyond that, and I think a 6-star experience is probably exponentially beyond a 5-star experience. Like, it's not just another notch up the ladder. There's a bunch of extra things happen in my mind when we think 6-star. And so that aspirational goal of being 6-star is something that draws me and my team and what we're intending to do forward.
Lovely. So, Remeny, what about yourself? What was it about the notion of the 6-star business that captured your thoughts and imagination and desire to be here, apart from being here with myself and Pete?
Well, I think that the idea of it is brilliant, and it's something that I strive for, and I want my clients to strive for. And I believe that with the work that I do with my clients, by listening to people's clients, so as I said earlier, I interview my clients' and I believe that with that human connection, and by reaching out to your clients and listening to their needs and understanding what they think you can do to improve all the way along your engagement with your client, your journey with your client, you can only improve your business and start to reach for the 6-star business. And I think that kind of accepted assumption within business of, I'm doing my job, this is what we're doing, this is what we think our clients want, is fine. And you can achieve things, you can be nice to your clients by proactively going out and engaging with your clients and listening to them, speaking to them and asking them what they want and asking them how you can improve. You can't not improve if you listen and do as your clients say. And saying that, they're not always right, but it's by absorbing the overall feelings of what could be done to improve. And by being proactive, you can then start to aim for that 6-star business. So I just love the concept of what you're doing and highlighting the fact it's possible to get that. So as I say, if you proactively listen to your clients, look for improvements, you can only do better and be more likely to become a 6-star business.
I'm really curious, Remeny, how you actually got to be doing what you're doing now.
Well, my background, so I've worked in digital agencies for over 20 years, and I was, I've done everything from project management to the main thing I worked on was marketing and business development. So I was always new business, and I always got really frustrated because I was seeing all these clients. The agency I was at for 10 years, well-respected agency, really good in their sectors. They had over 300 clients over the 25 years that they'd been running, but I think there was something missing there, that actually that client engagement for their past clients, what could be done to improve and nurture those clients. And I kept saying I want to engage with the old clients, not just new business. And like most people believe, you've got to go for new business. So I tended to be put off. And I would occasionally do client care calls where I would call the clients, find out what was working, what wasn't. And then we would deal with an issue that the client might have. When I left the business 3.5 years ago, we set up Brilliant and Human. And the idea of client advocacy was actually, let's focus on the existing clients you've got. How can you make them happier? How can you nurture those relationships? How can you make those contacts, those relationships more human? And that's what I focus on now, because I do believe that human engagement is so important, especially in this plethora of the digital world. So I love what Greg's doing, because I think that humanity side and that reaching out to people in a human way is so important. So that's kind of how I got to where I am now.
So, Remeny, that leads me to a question. And is it okay, Pete, if I jump in and ask Remeny a question?
Yep. As I said, you don't ask permission when you're sitting around at a friend's house whether you can talk. Just go for it.
All right, Pete. Keep quiet, Pete. I've got a question for Remeny.
It makes our job a heck of a lot easier, Greg. So go at it.
All right. So Remeny, it's you and I. We're going to have a great conversation. Right. So Bain & Co., whatever number of years ago, Boston leading consultants clearly did that monster piece of research that said a 5% improvement in client retention can lead to up to a 95% improvement in profitability.
Yes.
And yet I have not had, I'm going to say not had a single, that's an exaggeration. I've had very few of my clients ask me to help them with client retention. A larger proportion of them ask for help with lead generation. What do you reckon? What do you reckon's going on in entrepreneurs' minds to not forget about, but certainly not focus on the client retention piece? What do you think that is?
I think it's a combination of things. I think it's partly due to the fact that it's like listening to old rules and laws of science. I studied history of science at university, and so kind of breaking the rules, being the true scientists are the ones who break the rules. And I think that in a way we're in this space now where people accept that you've got to get new business, and you've got to spend lots of money on marketing. Yes, you've got to do that, but I think that people are afraid to break from that rule, so they put so much energy into that new business and that lead generation. I mean, I spent years doing lead generation as well, and I mean, the way I did it was all about relationship build, and it was slow but more effective. But I do think that side of nurturing relationships obviously is more beneficial, as Bain, as you were saying with Bain. But I was on a call with a group of digital entrepreneurs around Christmas time, and I asked the question because I thought that it's really weird. Why do people do that? And they all said the same thing, which I thought was fascinating, was the fact they all said, well, we like the shiny and new, and we want to go for something interesting and new, and it gets boring doing the same thing with the same clients. But what I find interesting when I'm interviewing people's clients, very often they have no idea the capabilities of the business that I'm interviewing for. And so actually there's so many lost opportunities where people go off to other businesses to get suppliers when they could get it with the suppliers they already know, trust and like. And I think it's a mixture of the old school head and liking the shiny and new. And I think there's a big education piece out there, which is what I'm trying to do.
And so many more opportunities, it sounds like, to deliver a six-star experience. If you've got if you've gone to the effort and the trouble of getting a client in the first place, and you only deliver one part of your service to them, then how can you possibly be delivering a 6-star experience?
And also the other thing that has happened with me a couple of times, which has been really satisfying, is by interviewing people's clients, we've come up with new products and services off the back of what their clients have specifically asked for. I had one client, I interviewed all their clients and they had various problems. They're a well-respected agency, but they had problems within like their communications and processes. Very typical, normal stuff that businesses struggle with. When we fed that back. They addressed the issues that their clients have been complaining about. I then followed up and did the interviews again a year later, and to show that they're serious about the changes, that they're accountable to their clients. And once I did that, the clients had none of the same complaints, and there were new clients in there, of course, as well. But all their clients then said they wanted them to be more strategic and more consultancy led. So they then introduced a whole new arm to their business, which within a year they were making 40% profit on the back of what their clients were asking for. So, they were really reaching for the stars, which is just obviously incredibly exciting and satisfying.
I think you could be onto something with what you've got there, Remeny.
I'm hoping so.
So Remeny,
go on.
No, it's okay. Go, Greg.
So my question is to the four of us: if we consider that this is about exploring what a 6-star experience is, when we consider who we interact with in the business world on a weekly or a monthly basis, so it's schools and institutions and bureaucracies and shops and businesses and suppliers, and what level of service on average, and it's a ridiculous question in some way, but I'm curious, what level of service do we get? Are we getting 6-star experiences? Are we getting 1-star experiences? Or are we getting something in the middle?
Do you think that the answer to that depends on one's expectations?
Yes, and it's contextual as well. So it's expectations and it's contextual. My answer to that is I rarely have a 5-star experience. So if we are rarely having a 5-star experience, are we also rarely having a 4-star experience? And if we're only getting a 3-star experience on average, what the hell and blazes are we doing in business if that's what's happening? When Remeny just explained that the distance between having a 3-star and a 5-star experience is listening. That's what I got from what she just shared. Sorry, what you just shared, Remeny.
So therefore, does it come down then to the beliefs or the openness of the business owner, or like, for instance, who you're working with, Remeny, when you've actually fed back the results of your interviews and everything you've gotten? Does it require that business to listen and adopt the outcomes and say, how can we improve?
Yeah, I think right at the beginning they need to be willing to improve and listen and understand that some of the information I might come back with might be uncomfortable, but it's exciting when it's uncomfortable because it means you've got scope to improve. And I think that's part of the problem. Sometimes people are afraid to do it because they don't want to hear what I'm going to say. But at the same time, it can be hugely profitable. And for me, people say, oh, you're a researcher. And actually, no, I'm not. I'm someone who wants to improve relationships, and I'm all about good relationships and about building humanity in business. And I think that it's so important to have that at the heart of everything you do. And, that was one of the things I got frustrated with what I originally was doing with the client care. We weren't looking at the bigger picture, dealing with one thing at a time and reacting. You've got to be accountable, be proactive, be process driven to start to see improvements and strive for better. And that's not to say all your clients are right. Can I just say, clients can be horrible sometimes. There have been times that I've interviewed clients and, I always get a history beforehand. And sometimes, I'm warned that someone might be very difficult. And actually, occasionally they need to be fired because actually they're making your life and your team's life impossible. And that brings me around to, I think it's not just about the owners, it's also about teams and people within a business. And if everyone is striving for better, striving for humanity, striving for, that 6-star business because they're a team, that's really important as well. And we were talking about it the other day, Evelyn, when we were saying about that relationship, every relationship within, whether you're the client, the team member, the owner, if you can work more as a partnership relationship build, I think that also helps you head towards the 6 stars.
I mean, Greg, just going back to a question you asked earlier when you referenced the Bain & Co. research, what's your take on it? Because, you know, I've experienced your service, and I can see it having far more powerful impact in a client retention space than lead generation. So what's your answer to the question that you posed?
Fear. So even in my own business, so I aspire to be CEO of a company that is providing 5 and 6 star experiences, yet I know, because I'm a flawed carbon unit, I know that there are gaps in what we provide in terms of our customer experience. So when somebody chips me on that, and correctly chips me on that because it's an accurate observation, I go hot and sweaty and think, oh my God, how could I have missed that? Or even worse, I knew that gap was there, but I've not had the time, the resources, or the team to make sure that that gap was no longer there. So that feedback is extremely valuable, but gee, it hurts sometimes when you've invested blood, sweat, tears, and your soul into building something that you know is of high value. So my answer to the question is, we want to look forward rather than backwards, because in some way it's easier and there's scary stuff behind us.
Is that also with social conditioning? Social conditioning from a marketing perspective, that you've always got to be looking forward to more leads, more sales.
Yep. I think that's part of the story. And I think Remeny very, succinctly put that in a nice little box for us and tied it up. Like, yes, we are conditioned to look forward and play the game, particularly in the digital space. Like you think about any of the digital platforms, they're not really focused on helping us retain our existing clients. They're helping us make a whole lot of noise so that we can interrupt the attention of people in the marketplace that don't know us. I think there is
a great insight.
Massive value in the client retention space.
Okay, here's a question to follow on from that, Greg. If you think about the amount of attention and energy, time, money, so all the energy and resources business owners put into client retention versus finding new leads via the digital space, making noise, what would be the split out of 100?
Well, I don't know the figures on that, but it's going to be vastly tilted towards marketing, outward looking, forward thinking, rather than client retention. It's not an even balance.
My gut saying 2080.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, that's just my gut saying that.
So and Remeny, what you've reminded me when you said that was, there is a piece of work, and I don't know who did it, and the piece of work said that CEOs and owners of businesses believe that 80% of their clients know, like, trust them, and love them. But when those same clients were interviewed, only 8% or 6% agreed.
I think it's an interesting one. It reminds me of one of the interviews I did. I always ask my clients what they think their clients are going to say and what they think they'll rate them at. I always do. It's 90% qualitative questions and insight, but I do put some numbers to it because it makes it easier. And I had one client who said that their client loved them, all their clients loved them, but they had one particular one that they knew they were going to get like 90%, and they got a 60%. And part of it was because the business was too laid back, too quick to drop their prices, and they were almost too friendly. Which is a really fine line, but they felt they weren't professional enough, and they didn't like the way they did certain things. And so when I fed that back, they were really shocked. But what it meant was that they were then able to address it and deal with their client, that particular client, in a certain way. There are other clients like the fact that they were a little bit more laid back, but I think there was an issue there with trust. And this particular client and a couple of other clients were saying, oh, they're really cost effective, and they're cheap, etc. And actually, you don't want your clients saying that. And so it's actually a matter of actually looking at, your pricing, looking at your processes, and they had issues with their processes. Oh yeah, that'll be fine. But they were terrible at telling them when something wasn't going to be delivered or late or whatever. And for me, I think the big thing is that communication piece. Everything about reaching a 6-star business, I think, should be about communication. So the 3 things that come up the most for me is lack of processes, lack of proactivity, and lack of communication. And I think if you use those 3 things along the customer journey, and how can you improve those 3 things, then you can only improve across the board.
I fully believe that you bang on there, Remeny. I love numbers, and I always find it fascinating how many times the 80-20 rule applies in any area of life. So my question is, let's go with your gut, if the split of people's energy and attention is 80% onto new leads and sales and shiny object syndrome, 20% on client retention of, our, let's say, the market in general, or you can talk about the UK, you can talk about all business, small business. If that's who are listening, what percentage would be actually focusing on client retention?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's a hard one. I mean, I think that what you were saying earlier, the conditional, people are so conditioned to look for the new business. I think people don't necessarily even think about the client retention as a piece. Obviously people do, but not as a thing to invest in. And I think that's something that needs to be changed. But I think there is a movement with the humanity side, and I think people are recognizing, especially at the moment with the life we've been leading, the importance of client retention. Because actually, who wants to get a new supplier in this economy and life? We need to be retaining and keeping our clients happy. And how do we nurture those? And it's about listening to them. It's about going out and speaking to them and being flexible and listening to their issues and understanding their issues, but also understanding their clients' issues and seeing how you can serve them better.
So one of the questions that comes up for me is loyalty still a thing anymore? Or is loyalty a nice chivalrous idea from ancient history?
I hope loyalty is still around. Yes, I think it is. What do you guys think?
Yes, it's definitely still there. But again, I don't even believe it's the 20%.
No, I think the trouble is there's so much out there, isn't there? There's so many options.
Yeah. And from my experience being in this industry for about 13 years, it's the social conditioning, shiny object syndrome, and that leads people into always competing on product. Therefore, they become a commodity and they're not a person. So they're selling themselves as a commodity, right? They're comparing their product or service on the market to the next person's product or service. And therein lies the whole noise aspect on social media and trying to cut through. So loyalty, it comes from a different mindset. And focusing on relationship, which is what you've both mentioned.
So my thinking is that if I ask my prospects or my clients, is loyalty important? They'll say absolutely. And why then is loyalty important? Often there's not an answer to that, but the metrics around loyalty are lifetime customer value. But many people don't know what lifetime customer value means. So I'm seeing, Remeny, you're shaking your head there, I think in agreement that you hear the same sort of feedback. So if lifetime customer value, though, is based on maximizing the most value that you can provide for a client as many times as possible, and that equals loyalty, well, then loyalty is important. It is actually the low-hanging fruit, and it's also potentially the most profitable thing to do. And Evelyn, I love your thought that we don't want to commoditize ourselves. And for those that know Greg, everybody's heard this example before, but I'm going to give it again because it just helps me clarify this whole space around commoditization. And that is that in Australia, if you fly one of the budget airlines and the second word in that budget airline is star, and you fly from Brisbane to Melbourne on that aeroplane and it happens to be an A320, you have a particular experience using that machinery. But if you fly from exactly that same airport and you go to one of the major airlines, and let's use Singapore Airlines as the example, and you fly in an A320 from Brisbane to Melbourne or from Brisbane to Singapore, you have the same machinery but a vastly different experience. And the metaphor for me is the only differentiating factor many times in the marketplace is how we build an experience around machinery that is common to us all.
But is that not the human experience, which is what's improving the experience?
Exactly. That's my point.
And I think, I mean, everything you were saying was that kind of that loyalty. I think that the core to that is that human experience, and the loyalty and the trust that's built up can only be done via humans. And I think that's where you can go from 3, 4, 5, 6 stars, is introducing that true human engagement, because that's where you get the friendships, the loyalty. You can probably charge more for it because you are putting that effort in, which hopefully isn't just effort. It's about caring and about that partnership. Everyone wants to do a good job and be happy together. And I think that's where it's so important to make sure that everything you do has got the human element to it, so that you can build that trust and that loyalty.
Yeah, and Pete said earlier in this podcast even, this is about imagining that the four of us are sitting around our respective dinner tables, but together, like it doesn't matter whose dinner table, and imagining that we're having a conversation. So if we're going to do that and you come to my home, I'm going to have a label for you, and it's going to be guest, and it's going to be a welcome guest. And if I fly Singapore Airlines, that's how I'm treated. But when I fly a budget airline, I'm not a guest. I'm a passenger, and it's on all of their paperwork. So even in our language, we sort of set ourselves up for either a warm human touch point where we are nurtured and cared for without being soppy about it, or we're labeled as an industrial something to be processed. So if I'm a passenger, I get processed. If I'm a guest, I get seen and heard and honored as me.
Yes. And I think one of the things that is causing trouble in the world is the digital space, which, yes, it's giving us lots of opportunities, and there are lots of opportunities, but it's important not to forget the human side of it. And actually, that is where you can make the difference by engaging as people and not just relying on tech.
Yeah. And so I'm very disinterested in how many likes I get on a LinkedIn post. Don't mind. Not of interest at all. It's a great ego stroke to have 4,000 views of something that I've written, seen. But what I'm much more interested in is having a conversation with somebody and building a relationship, just one relationship out of those 4,000 likes, and my life being enriched, and hopefully me having the opportunity to enrich somebody else's life, rather than just hitting a button while I'm sitting on the loo, scanning through a bunch of posts on Facebook or LinkedIn. Like that's not what it's about.
TMI, Greg. I gotta de-res that now.
No,
Greg, I want to go back to something.
I love it.
Go on. Yeah.
It's a thing. Yeah.
I want to circle back. This is brilliant, and unlike me, I've been fairly quiet in this conversation because I've just been so enthralled in listening to the chat. But I want to go back, Greg, something you said earlier. You used quite an emotive word when I asked you what you thought, part of the issue was, and you said fear. Fear, I guess, in business owners' minds about what they might find out if they go and talk to their existing clients and focus on client retention. So far better just to kind of stick the fingers in the proverbial ears and just keep doing what I'm doing and going after new people. So what can we do about that? Because fear is can be a powerful force.
My knee-jerk answer to that, without thinking about the many layers of the onion that would actually create a more valuable answer probably, is that a word that is not permitted in a boardroom generally is the word love, whatever that means. Care, attention, respect, like allow it to mean whatever you want that to mean. But it's not really an okay word. So how do we get rid of the fear? My answer to that is we need to nurture each other to figure out how to speak the truth with love, how to speak the truth with respect, how to honor, how to first of all see, recognize, and honor the humanness in the person or the people that you're engaging with, and speak the truth with integrity, with good intent. So when I raise a 22-year-old who is living here with me at the moment, and she is a right pain in the backside sometimes, I love her from here to kingdom come. But her behavior needs challenging sometimes because she's a right so-and-so. So how do we speak the truth with love? We name the behavior, and it might be my own behavior that I need to own and name, but at the same time, we honor the humanness and the inevitability of the failure, the weakness, the not okayness of a particular behavior. So that might have been a bit deep and a bit non-commercial, but if we can figure out how to do that commercially, I think we are streets ahead of anybody that's in the same industry with us, and that's how we start to create a 6-star experience. It's one of the methodologies in my head.
I think
the Beatles had it right, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. Is having love at the heart of your business, and she worked with a great man called Alan Wick, who his whole saying is love in business, and he strives to do business with love, and he helps other people do business with love. And I think it's so true and it's so right. And actually, it reminds me of one of the clients where I was brought on to help them build a business case for their clients. They wanted to use it for their marketing, etc., etc. And so I started interviewing some of their clients. So they're a big tech business, and they had some of the biggest brands in the world. And I started interviewing their clients, and it wasn't going to be a business case. It was very much, and they needed to improve, and their clients were actually very unhappy with the way things were going. Their average scoring was 22%, and they were not engaging with their clients well enough. Their project managers were just constantly firefighting. The teams were demoralized. There was no love in the business, and there was no respect for anyone. After 3 interviews, I actually had to say, stop. You need to stop selling and stop marketing. They were really good at that, but they weren't good at servicing and listening to their clients. And then once they re-engaged with their client, because I said to them, look, if you stop marketing, start to build those relationships and trust with your clients, you can then start to move forward, and I can then start working with you again, because I can't, if you're not prepared to change and improve, I can't ethically do this. So after 6 months, they had got new project managers, changed the way they were doing things and engaging with their clients. And the most important thing was they were admitting they were wrong and they hadn't been delivering what they'd been promising, and they had to address that, and they did start to address it. They had a long way to go, but they were addressing their faults in a human way, with human contact and better processes and better communication. And their scoring went up from 22% to 74% in 6 months. And that was just by listening to their clients. And I think, their clients were £500,000, £1 million clients a year. And you can't mess with that. And their reputation was going to be destroyed unless they actually started to engage with and work with their clients rather than as a transactional thing. So as I say, it wasn't a business case project in the end, but it was about that improving the human engagement was the most important thing.
One of the things I got from what you just said there, Remeny, that's a great story. Appreciate you sharing. Was that the concept that Greg was talking about in terms of love and what we've been talking about in terms of humanity and care, is that it's not just for the small business. It's a business at all levels, because what is a business but a bunch of humans, I guess.
Yes, yeah. And you need everyone from the team members, and everyone in the team needs to be working to think about that human side and their clients and what that means to them, to the business owners, to the clients. And that partnership, that human partnership, needs to be embraced and recognized. And, people need to be heard.
Wow. So I know we've covered so much ground. Can you believe the time has just whizzed past? So we're getting near to the end. And I want to throw over a question to you both. How do you help a business that has been so focused on sales and marketing, transactional business, and help them become more human?
I send them to Remeny.
Well, thank you very much. I'll take that. I think for me, obviously, I would say, think about how you can treat your clients like client advocates. How can you, if you look at your different clients and look at the ones that are already advocates, the ones that are meh, to the unengaged, to the at-risk clients. The at-risk clients can be really valuable. But if you can look at each one and what makes them what they are, whether they're at risk or advocates, and what could you do to improve each stage, and how can you nurture them? Do you want to nurture all of them? You might not want to, but it's kind of recognizing what's working for your business, for your people, and for your clients, and then look at the journey. Very much what you do, Evelyn, is actually look at how you can improve that human engagement, and remember to touch base with people. At the beginning of a project, what was it they liked about you? Middle of the project, end of the project, when they, 6 months later, a year later, some of my old clients I've known for 20 years, and, we're friends, and it's how do you nurture those relationships in a human way? And then obviously, if you have someone interviewing them like me that's an outsider, so people feel like they can actually speak freely without that defensive response that is very natural, because it is scary, and and then feeding that back, but being accountable to your clients as well, and actually acknowledge that you want to be more human and engage with them, I think is it's a good start. But I think that just touching base with people, have a Zoom coffee, find out what their issues are. It shouldn't just be about business.
Yeah, brilliant. What about you, Greg?
The question is, how do we encourage our clients to consider the power of client retention in contrast to just thinking about lead gen, yeah?
Correct.
My experience would be that the 80-20 rule applies, and that is that 80% of my clients would say they've got client retention all sorted, and they can spit any number of statistics at me to prove the point. My intention is to help them build their business, and until I've built know, like, and trust with that client, I find it very difficult to convince a client who is deeply of the belief that their client retention is perfect to actually invest in the client retention space. If you like, for send handwritten with a client like that, the thin edge of the wedge is to help them with their lead gen and nurture them towards thinking about a client retention piece of work as well. Yeah.
So sell them what they want, and then give them what they need.
Yes, and increasingly, Pete, what's happening for us is that we are becoming more intentional as a business about attracting clients to us who are of the same belief as we are that there is value in client retention. So I can see this going for another, 5 years, 10 years, however long we're in business for, where we will intentionally continue to refine who our tribe is.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
A lot to be said for intention.
Yeah.
And my intention right now is to wrap up this fascinating conversation. It's never ceases to amaze Av and me where these conversations go, and each one kind of seems to pick up on a particular theme, and that's definitely been the case today. I'm looking forward to discussing it with Av in the intro and outro that we'll record in a little bit. So it just remains for me to say thanks, Remeny. Thank you, Greg, for giving up some time to be with Av and me, and I'll leave the final words to Av.
Thanks, Pete. Like Pete said, it's an honor, it's a privilege to share this space, and I love the power of the collective minds as we come together. And I'd like to leave with the line from the Beatles that Pete referred to earlier, and all we need is love. So on that note, thank you. Good night, good morning, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, Pete, wow, another great episode. And I know that all our listeners will probably have come through that episode and just thought of so many ways they can implement things in their business or what they're not doing, because Greg and Remeny both are just such experts at the human connection and how important it is to connect with people at all parts of the customer journey. So, yeah, what's your thoughts on what people can do at this point?
Well, my thoughts that if you're not listening to the 6-Star Business podcast in a place where you're able to take notes, then either do that or listen to it again, because as you said, there's just so much in there. And I'm also amazed at how all of these different facets, like a beautifully cut diamond, and each facet of a 6-Star business, you could have a whole podcast series episode, like multiple episodes of a podcast about. And this one is just one aspect of that 6-Star business, highlighting the human connection. So
another gem in the jewelry box.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's another wrap for us at the 6-Star Business podcast. Yeah. Thank you for listening, dear listener. Yeah.
And if you have got this far and you're listening to us stumble through the end, remember that you can join us at the 6-Star Business community, community.6starbusiness.com, and that's SIX star, community.6starbusiness.com. Love to see you there, welcome you there, and go through the transformation that's happening in that community with you.
Yeah.
So until next time.
Take care, have fun, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.